you're able to post anything on those platforms. So that makes you a media producer. So how does that change the dynamics when it comes to how media is operating? How does that change when it comes to how the mainstream media is also operating? We've seen also the rise of vernacular radio stations, TV stations. What does that mean to us? We've seen issues to do with social media tools for analysis, the analytics for Twitter and the other platforms. So what does that mean? Whenever we can get that feedback, what does that mean when it comes to how we interact? So those are some of the things we'll be talking about. So we'll have scholars, we'll have various stakeholders talking to us and having a discussion with us. So everyone feel free to be part of that discussion. You're not only here to listen, but also to contribute to that discourse and to that discussion. So I'm going to invite our Dean in the School of Communication, Professor Levi Obonyo. Let us give him a hand clap as he comes here. And then he's going to give his opening remarks and also put everything into perspective as we officially begin this conference. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Dan. The Honorable Samuel Pogisho did our majority in the Parliament. The Vice Chancellor, Daystar University, Professor Ayo, the Deputy Vice Chancellor in charge of Academics, Research and Student Affairs, Professor Faith Guru, our colleagues from Dortmund University. I can see Dr. Ines there and Stephen. Roya has disappeared. I can see her at the back. Colleagues in the academy, in the world of scholarship, also colleagues from the industry. Good morning. I'm not going to make any remarks now because I have a session later on, so we're going to go straight into the conversation that we're going to have. I want to particularly recognize in absence here Professor Susan Fengler, who has been so critical in the convening and coming together of this function. Unfortunately, she was not able to join us. She's in Dortmund. Those of you who don't know where Dortmund is, you just need during football matches to watch a football team called Borussia Dortmund. They wear a yellow uniform, and it's an amazing, amazing team to watch among those that are competing in Germany. So from now on, you have to pay attention to Borussia Dortmund whenever they are playing, and I urge you to be a supporter of Borussia Dortmund. So you cheer them, particularly when they are playing against Liverpool. So we want to start this conversation around media development and what's happening in the sector. Before you, the Honorable Pogisho, we have colleagues and scholars from several countries, and I just want to very quickly introduce our colleagues from the nations where they come from. We don't have a record as to who already is here and who is not here. So if I would just ask us to quickly stand and maybe shout where we're coming from so that we assist of the various institutions and universities that are represented here. So could I ask us all to stand, including those who are going to be presenting from Daystar? Please, if you could just rise. And very quickly, no, this is not introduction, but I just want us to get a sense of where we're coming from. So you're just going to tell us your name very quickly, and then tell us the country, and then we move on. And at the far end, of course, is my I would like to say,
thank you. Good morning to everyone. I'm Ivan Daikunda from Burundi, and I'm an alumni of Daystar. So proud to be an alumni of Daystar, and I'm currently the Vice Chancellor of Bujumbura Light University. Happy to be back. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Nicola Davies-Loubser. I'm from University of Cape Town in South Africa. I'm a PhD student in media studies.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Israel Bioni. I am from Cameroon. I represent the University of Leicester and University of Catalonia. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Manfede Suman. I'm Ghanaian, but I'm a PhD student at the Nelson Mandela University in South Africa and a research fellow at the University of Iowa in the United States. Thank you very much.
Yes, good morning. Patrick Mulinge, Daystar University.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dixon Ngitonga. I work as a researcher in a state agency by the name National Crime Research Center, Ministry of Interior. And I'm also a student at Longo University, a PhD student, doing a PhD in Media and Security Studies. I'm happy to be here.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Oliver Omayeye Barasa. I'm a master's student at Longo University, pursuing master's in Media and Security Studies. Happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Yes, good morning. I'm Josephine Kinyanso, Daystar University, Kenya.
Good morning. I'm Florence Kigen, Daystar University, Kenya.
Good morning. My name is Anne Mwende, PhD, Daystar University.
Hi, morning, everyone. My name is Ute Odwol, and I'm an MA student here at Daystar University.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Professor Frederick Ogenga. I'm the director of the Center for Media Democracy, Peace and Security at Rongo University, and I'm here with the students from Rongo University. Thank you so much.
Good morning. My name is Benson Kithaiga from the Aga Khan University. I work with media startups.
Good morning. My name is Theodora Dame Ajintete. I'm a lecturer at the University of Ghana and a research associate at Rhodes University in South Africa. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Rati Zomidzi. I'm from the Midland State University in Zimbabwe. I'm doing my PhD and I'm also working there as a lecturer. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Like Eve, I'm also from Daystar from a long time ago. My name is Emily Kamfat Marashto from Uganda Christian University. I studied here 2012 to 14. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ines Dreves. I'm a postdoc at Eric Bross Institute in Dortmund, where the soccer team wears yellow and black. And I'm the program manager of MEDAS 21, the graduate school who was involved in organizing this event. Happy to be here.
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Stefan Wolnick. I am doing my PhD in Communication Studies at Duisburg-Essen University in Germany. And I'm also a member of MEDAS 21. And of course, I'm also very happy to be here. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ms. Diana Anyende. I work at the Aga Khan University Institute of Human Development. I'm studying my PhD in Media Studies at the University of Witwatersrand, South Africa.
Excuse me, you left something at the back.
My name is Camille John Paul, Daystar University.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Cheruiyot Jelagat, a PhD student from Daystar University, Kenya. Thank you.
Good morning, all. My name is Obi Obiodiabo, PhD student, Daystar University.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Hesbon Hansen Ochieng Owila. I'm a PhD student here at Daystar University, and I work at the Aga Khan University.
Thank you so much. So those are the universities and nations represented here, and we're so delighted. We're going to go to listen to a presentation. We're very proud of our music class and our choir. This is from the School of Communication. Clap for us. This is from Language and Performing Arts Department, the music program. And just know that the university anthem that we sang was composed by faculty in the Language and Performing Arts Department, and these are going to be the critical voices that are going to make a difference in the creative arts economy in the coming days. And so listening to them is actually a privilege, and I'm delighted about that. After they're done with the music, then we're going to take a moment and listen to Professor Fengler speak to us from Germany. As I mentioned to you, she wasn't able to join us, but she sent us a message, and we're going to take a moment and listen to her speak to us about this whole media development workshop. Just before the choir comes in, I want to express our gratitude to the Volkswagen Foundation that has made this project possible by supporting us, and we are delighted at their support, and Professor Fengler and ourselves as Daystar University are very grateful to that contribution to this conversation around media. So, LPA Choir.
Hello, good morning once again. I'd like to say that you all look lovely this morning. We'll be presenting to you a Tswana song, Tapelo Tsarona, and it goes Tapelo Tsarona Ribine Hosana Hosana Hodimo Tati, which means in English, in our prayers we should sing Hosana Hosana in the highest to the Father. Thank you.
Okay. Before you sit, you can repeat that last bit again. You sing with them. Is it Olingo or Tate or something like that? I don't know if I got it right. And then you tell us what it means. Just once, yeah. So we're going to listen to Professor Susan Fengler from the University of Dortmund.
Good morning, everybody in Nairobi. Very warm regards. I hope you're well. I hope you slept well. I hope you had a safe trip to Nairobi.
We're going to have the video shortly.
Good morning, everybody in Nairobi. Very warm regards. I hope you're well. I hope you slept well. I hope you had a safe trip to Nairobi. And first of all, I would like to thank our wonderful hosts there, Professor Levi Obonyo and his team. And I'm really so glad that we can be your guests in the coming days, that you will facilitate this international exchange and also provide our international attendants with the opportunity to explore Nairobi, see a bit of the area, get a feeling for the people, for the culture, for the food, of course. And I really do hope you have a great time, not only a good time, but a great time, and that this will be really a major stepstone for all of you, both in academic terms and also in terms of networks and friendships. And I think this is one of the wonderful things about academic work, scholarly work, that you meet such wonderful people around the world and see that you are connected to them because you have the same research interests and you learn from each other, and by this also slowly develop a sort of a research family. And anytime I meet all the partners I have worked with, it feels like a family gathering, and so it feels like being with Levi, and he has been also our guest in Dortmund already. We had the pleasure to host him a few years ago, and so I do hope that this workshop will always be a milestone in your academic career. And I would like to say a very few words about the Erich Brost Institute. Ines can tell you much more, and also Jens can tell you much more about the graduate school MEDAS 21 on media development. And he and Barbara Thomas, we four have formed a team behind this graduate school in the past years. The Erich Brost Institute has three major areas of activity. On the one hand side, of course, research. So we do large comparative studies, and our focus in the past years have been accountability. We just published the Global Handbook of Media Accountability with 44 countries involved, and Kenya is among them, and the author sits in your room because it's Levi. And there are also several other sub-Saharan African countries in this book, so yeah, if you're interested, let us know so we can provide you with more information. And another example is our research in the field of migration coverage. So we have done a lot of comparative studies how media in different parts of the world report on migration and on refugees. And of course this topic is now so pressing with the many refugees coming from Ukraine, fleeing from the war which Russia has imposed on Ukraine. And yeah, so this is a very timely thing, and we hope to translate this always into praxis relevant materials and projects. And so, for example, also last year we published the UNESCO handbook covering migrants and refugees, and this is a huge and very heavy handbook which serves as a tool for journalism educators if they want to teach journalism students how to report on migrants and refugees, both from a theoretical point of view, political science point of view, communication studies point of view, up to the very practical point of view, how to deal with people who are traumatized in interviews, and how to sell the migration story to your editor who might be tired of it, and so on. So these are examples for our research activities, and the graduate school MEDAS 21 is of course one of our very key research activities, but I don't go in depth here because Jens will certainly do this, and also Ines, of course. Another very important field are media development activities. So we actually also try to make a difference in the countries we study. One example, or one recent example, is that we, with funds from the German Foreign Ministry, that we created there a network of media ombudsmen. And also in Tunis, the media sphere went through a lot of transformations after the end of dictatorship, and yeah, media was suddenly no longer under state control. But journalists found it hard to grapple with these newly found freedoms. Also because the media scene is quite politicized in Tunisia, as in many transformation countries, and so we worked there for several years, building ombudsman institutions in Tunisian newsrooms, and that was also very satisfying and very illustrative example for our practical work. And yeah, just today, I'm just coming back from a press conference. We just today published a massive open online course on migration coverage and integration, which we have developed in the past year for the German Federal Chancellery, and it was just published today, and maybe Ines can provide you with a link if you want to take a look, even though it's in German. Yeah. So we still need to translate it in other languages. And of course, exchange is a key element of the Erich Voss Institute. It has been founded, by the way, this institute by Erich Voss, who was one of the most successful publishers in Western Germany after the Second World War. He himself was a journalist in Germany before the Nazi era started, and he was a very critical journalist, so he could very soon no longer work in Germany. So first he moved to Poland, but then had to flee also Poland because it was overrun by Nazis, and then went to London, where he worked for the BBC. And from there he developed programs for the Germans who were under Nazi propaganda at that time. And after the war he came back to Germany as part of the Allied forces, the UK Allied forces, and got one of the first licenses to print a newspaper in Germany after the reorganization of the media system after the Second World War. And he became very successful and affluent with this, and part of his money went into the creation of the Erich Voss Institute, and it was his core issue that we have to make young journalism scholars aware that they are key actors in international exchange, in fostering mutual understanding to, if possible, avoid conflict and war. But while we see at the moment, how dramatically things develop even in a time of social media, of global communication, of borderless communication, still political actors like Putin are able to inflict a war on innocent people, and this is really shocking to hear. We try to maintain, nonetheless, not only very good contacts with our Ukrainian colleagues, but also with our colleagues from Russia, who have published very critical pieces on the media system in Russia in the past years, and are also now under threat from the Russian system, the Russian police. So we do see also here our job in fostering networks amongst people who are for democratic change. Exchange is one of the core issues of the Institute. So this is a perfect example of what you're currently doing here. Also, we take journalism students out to field trips, so they network with people abroad, students abroad, learn how to report from abroad. We are very active in the field of organizing conferences. So both scholarly journalism educators and media practitioners meet either in Dortmund, or on several conferences we organized in past years across the world to discuss matters of global media. And also we are not only German but part Brazilian, because at the moment we have a huge research and exchange program with our colleagues from Brazil. And so right now we're actually 4 Brazilian researchers at the Erich Brost Institute. So a huge part of our team is Brazilian, and that adds to the fun of working in the Erich Brost Institute. Yes. So I hope you have a small idea of what the Erich Brost Institute is about. One final word why I'm here and not with you. I've been very ill, unfortunately, last year, and was in chemotherapy for half a year and several other treatments, and I just got out of it. So I'm very happy about this. And I have also resumed working, but still I have to be quite careful because some part of the therapy is ongoing, and so I'm kind of limited in terms of my radius where I can go. And so I beg for your understanding that I cannot be with you today and in this week. But please feel my heart and my thoughts with you all the time, and I will, as soon as Ines and Jens are back, I will grab them and ask them to tell me how it was, and I'm sure it will be great. So once again, very warm regards. Thank you so much to our super host from Kenya, Levi and his team. And have a very good conference, and very special thanks also, I have to mention this very prominently now, to Hoya, Saitoni and Viviane Schönbächler, who have been the mastermind behind this exchange. They had the idea of writing a proposal and securing funds for this exchange, and this is just a wonderful example how researchers, young researchers, create their opportunities, and how they connect to you, to research organizations, and make great things possible. So thank you very much, especially to you, Roya. Okay, so have a good time, and I now mute myself, otherwise I would go on for a long time, and wish you a super successful conference. Bye-bye. See you.
Yeah, thank you for those claps for Professor Fegler, and wish her quick recovery. I'm sure she'll watch this one later, so she'll get that. And thank you so much, Prof. She'll say thank you to Prof and the team. So I would love to believe that the rest of us are part of the team. So we have all been thanked. So next time you plan a trip to Dortmund, please take me with you, at least as your as your supervisee. He is my supervisor, actually. I'm taking my PhD in communication from this university. So I'm just trying to force a relationship to be closer to that university. So thank you so much for those remarks. The conversation has started. You've heard they're talking about comparative studies. Most of you have done studies that are that kind of nature. When it comes to comparative studies, we talk about how things are done elsewhere and where we are, or maybe comparing two different places. So this is very timely, talking about the way we are covering stories to do with the refugee issue in Ukraine. We are used to covering such kind of stories in other places. So there's that challenge. There's a story I read the other day on the Washington Post about the challenges journalists in Europe are going through, covering such kind of a situation around them or closer to them. It used to be different initially, so it's different from the way they used to cover it. So we have those dynamics that are coming in. So I think that's a very timely conversation. So I'm going to invite our next speaker, who is one of us, one of our scholars here, who is very supportive when it comes to matters research and also in support of students. So I'm going to welcome Professor Faith Nguru, who is our DVC Academic Research and Student Affairs, to make remarks and to also welcome you once more. So welcome.
Good morning, everyone. It's a joy to welcome Honorable Samuel Pogisho, one of us. We proudly applaud him for the work that he has done in this country and in the areas of communication. We are also very thankful that our Vice Chancellor is here with us, Professor Laban Peter Airo, another supporter of academic work and research. Professor Levi Obonyo, you are very good at gathering people around you. Now you have gathered people all the way from Germany, and we thank you. There was a time you gathered some from China, and we are happy. And you have gathered us from different parts of this country and of this continent. And we are very thankful that you are using your networks to bring scholarship close to us. All the people who introduce themselves are lecturers, they are MA students, they are PhD students, they are young scholars, and they are happy to be here, I believe. I hope I'm speaking for you. That you are happy to be here, to learn, to understand, to question, to interrogate, to ask yourself, how is this theoretical work ever going to be practiced? So thank you very much, Professor Levi Obonyo. Midas 21, we've heard a little bit, and I'm sure we'll hear more as we go along. Thank you and welcome. University of Dortmund has been very supportive, I'm sure, and again we'll hear a little bit more. Eric Frost Institute, networks. We have heard from those networks in Europe. We've even heard that there's work in Brazil that is happening. So when you think of yourself as a communicator, I want to plead with you that you bring down the walls of isolation and recognize yourself as part of the global network of communication. Those from Daystar University, I see colleagues here, and you are very welcome to support this great work. Allow me to speak and say a few words about this change that seems to be the theme of this workshop. The change that is happening in media and industry, and this change, as you very well know, is happening at a very fast pace. And already we are starting to hear what has happened, even in the last 3 years. Those of us who studied communication very many years ago are always amazed at what is happening. The things we used to read and think about the future. Now that future is with us. And this change is a given. And we have scholars in the field discussing the changes. We have hands-on professionals also discussing these changes, and even the non-professional communicators that were mentioned a little earlier. They are engaging in this change in the communication field. And we discover that there are concerns in industry. Declining circulation of newspapers, declining number of viewers, especially of traditional media. But those eyeballs have moved to another screen, and hence the research around these changes. We've also noted a decline in revenue, the challenges of technology and innovation, and we have a new generation, the emerging generation Z, with what has been noted as peculiar habits in media consumption. And these changes have caused different stakeholders, even people remotely engaged in communication, Z to wonder where what has been noted as peculiar habits in media consumption to these subjects. And these changes have caused different stakeholders, even people attempting to do remotely engaged in communication Z today, as we take a long view of future implications. Obviously, we know what is happening in the north, where the industry is responding to the changes in industry. And these responses have different results. The New York Times, for example, has met with some fair level of success and is now being considered a model. But their circumstances in the north are unique, as are our circumstances here in the south. We note that not all sectors have been sleepwalking through these massive disruptions. We may not have been the leaders that we ought to be in responding to these disruptive innovations, but we are doing our best. And you are the judges of this. You'll be telling us in your papers how well we are doing or how badly we are doing. But if we look at the media sector, and the industry response to the media sector, we are only looking at a certain aspect, not everything. Because in the middle of that disruption is the academy. University departments that train communication and journalism. And this has been impacted or will be impacted in the way we train and educate. And we are concerned about the academy should respond to these disruptions. To say that the academy has major disruptions would be with a change in the global sense. But in a granular sense, we'll do some self-introspection about our responses to the changes in the media and the values that the media has for all of us. And it appears, one looking at it, the way we are starting to describe where we are going, that the old script must be thrown out through the window or pushed under some carpet somewhere. And the reason is simple, in that the old script, maybe even the old titles of our research projects, does not seem to be working as it should. And I give an example of the crafting of today's newspaper headlines as an example. Most of these headlines are mere conjecture. You look at the headline, then you read what is in the paper, the content, you wonder, what is the connection? That just grabbed your attention, you bought the paper, but inside there's absolutely nothing, especially if it is called a newspaper. You wonder what is news there. So our definitions need to change. And we discover that the academy, the education sector especially, is like a huge ship which changes very slowly or moves very slowly. You change it too fast, and there are dangers and consequences that you must deal with. While it must be acknowledged that we desperately need to revamp our curriculum, how fast this can be done in tandem with industry is a question because of the process of curriculum development vis-a-vis the regulators. How quickly can we change the content of some of our courses that we have been teaching for very many years? At the universities, we have processes and procedures that move one step at a time, a chameleon type of a speed. That's what I thought. And the industry, on the other hand, and society is on a hare-like speed. If you remember the children's story of the hare and the tortoise. It embraces innovative disruption while the academy abhors disruptions. And this is our dilemma as we gather these coming 3 days. As we engage with industry innovations, we must design a new curriculum and better pedagogical approaches that allow us to adopt a speed that is fast enough to keep in step. However, in adopting these kind of changes in the academy, we understand that this is a costly exercise or a costly project. And if we go that direction, which we must, then we need to think about the funding of our students. How many will afford that kind of education that we are talking about? And this is the area where we need to strike a balance as we seek solutions that cost as little as possible, but have maximum results. As I conclude, let me remind us of who we are in this whole mix as researchers and academics. We are change agents, whatever is happening. And we cannot avoid this God-given responsibility to seek understanding about what is happening in industry so that we can walk in tandem with the expectations that are out there. And there is much that is expected of us. We must not forget, whatever changes are happening, that it is our responsibility to inform, educate, and challenge society for its own benefit and sustainability. This is the calling of our time, to be communicators, to be educators of communicators in a manner that meets our calling. And hopefully, in the next 3 days, as we labor at an academic and at a practical level, we will come up with our very own, very well-reasoned responses to these issues. And this is the thrust of our workshop. And it is befitting that we in academia and in practice do research that is informed by these kind of thoughts and future possibilities. And I believe we are equal to the challenge. So welcome to Daystar University. the home of communication, to engage and to learn and to enjoy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Nguru, for those remarks. This is the home of communication. And actually, I know some of the guests will be coming in later on will be from the media. And they'll tell you that whenever someone goes for an interview and their CV reads they are from Daystar University, they already stand a better chance. So let's clap for Daystar University. So it's a good thing the communication department is doing to place themselves up there as a university, and also the students who leave this university. So Professor Nguru has talked about a number of things, and she has said that the future is here. We've seen media houses putting their content behind the paywall so that you can pay for that content. They are no longer relying on advertisers. Yeah, things are changing. Yeah, she has said the eyeballs are shifting from the mainstream media to the online platforms. We've seen the rise of online celebrities, those people who are doing the celebrity endorsements and all that. So where does that place the initial communication platform that we were used to? So I'm going to invite the next speaker. We have one more speaker, and then we have our chief guest, and then after that we'll be having a cup of tea. So just to prepare yourself for that. So I'm going to welcome our Vice Chancellor, Professor Laban Ayiro. He's one of the newsmakers in matters academia and all that. I've covered him as a journalist, and then we also met in the university as my Vice Chancellor. He also taught me in one of the PhD classes. He just walked into our class and taught us about research. He's so passionate about matters of research. So welcome very much. Okay.
Our chief guest and one of our own, Honorable Pogisho, who is the leader, majority leader in our Senate, our National Senate. The very many distinguished guests from across the world, and particularly Africa. I appreciate my colleague from Burundi, Karibu Sana. And also, I want, on the very onset, to appreciate the collaboration between the Eric Brost Institute of International Journalism from Dortmund Technical University, and their contribution to this very important research interaction. I want to welcome everybody to Daystar. I want you to feel at home, and I want you to engage constructively and share ideas and cross-pollinate your thinking within yourselves, so that at the end of this workshop, we shall be richer. I am not from media. I am a scientist by disposition, and I teach statistics. So this is a very strange area for me. But my DVC, Professor Nguru, thank you so much. Many times you delight my heart at your grasp of concepts and issues. And I'm always proud of you when it comes to matters communication. And I know Levi had written points for me, but I'll not go into them because of time. But I just want to pose a few questions. In order to communicate, you must have the knowledge. Yeah. Otherwise, you'll be a very shallow communicator. And one of my distress points in Daystar is both my undergraduate, master's, and PhD students is their level of interaction with the best source of knowledge, books. So when I walk around this campus, most of the time I see my students on their mobile phones. I'm of another generation, but I've also studied not too long ago in the US and other places, engaged in reading books. And for me, you can never become that efficient communicator if you don't assemble adequate knowledge. So as you engage in this discussion, for me, my point of distress, and I look at what is coming out of the continent of Africa in terms of publications, our publication levels globally are sitting at around 2%. What does that say? We are a continent of downloaders from the internet. We don't upload. So even if I pick a sector like communication, and I can say the same in research methods, in statistics, in other areas of endeavor, most people are not able to engage effectively as communicators. Even now, we are talking about Russia and the Ukraine. And I'm hoping to see our perspectives as an African continent on that very unfortunate conflict. And what does it mean for us as Africans? And what are the lessons we can learn from it? Elections are coming in Kenya in August. But I don't see well-synthesized articles from our media houses and journalists giving us perspective other than telling us the number of crowds and the ethnic pronouncements that are made in rallies across the country. But there's a deep analysis that a journalist is expected to bring out on the economic policies of our two leading presidential candidates. And we synthesize and we bring them to account. That can only come if there has been adequate knowledge assembling. So I'm not a media person, I'm not a communicator, but I just want to still cry that if we continue that way, we shall remain on the periphery. And Faith, I'm glad you brought up the North-South narrative. We shall continue to dance on the periphery. And how I wish that we can also move towards the center, where there is heat, where there's beauty, where there's pride, where there's new knowledge creation, positioning the African continent appropriately. So I would like to wish you well. I would be following the deliberations through my brother Levi here on what's going on. Levi, sometimes when you hold such a conference, you should have picked an appropriate room so that people don't feel it is too big a space. You know, this is a very professional, highly professional conference. So the mezzanine would have been very nice, where you come together and are able, in a smaller, they have tables, they can sit, they can dialogue and so on. So I want to challenge all of us, and this challenge is not just to you, it's even to us. Even us, even me as a Vice Chancellor, I'm challenged to the limit. How can I make Daystar better or just as good as Maryland University in the US, or the University of Pretoria, or Nelson Mandela University, where I've had training programs? We'll only do that if we sacrifice and are prepared to shift to the center and not on the periphery. Our journalists, sometimes you make us very worried. you place us in a situation where we keep on blaming the colonialists. I find that very strange. 50 years, 60 years after independence, we are still talking about that era. Surely, we can reconfigure ourselves better as we walk into the 21st century. I want to, and I've urged my Daystar students, please don't, most of my students have outsourced their brain to Google. And you know what is going to happen to your brain? You are going to shrink. Because scientifically, you are supposed to exercise that brain for it to grow. But you have outsourced anything, you go to Google and you pick something small. I want to stop there. Give me the privilege to welcome the chief guest. So may I ask everybody to be upstanding as we invite Honorable Pogisho to address us. Makofi, moja, mbili, tatu. Are we that dead? The Nyayo claps, moja, mbili, tena, tena. Mheshimiwa, karibu. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Ayiro and Professor Faith Guru, Levi Obonyo, all our guests, invited guests, participants, academics, students, and Daystar University as a whole. This really gives me great pleasure just to be here. It's always good to be back here at Daystar and know that for those of you who are new to me, that 25 years ago, I walked out of a classroom here and straight into the National Assembly of Kenya as a member of parliament, and I have remained there for this long. So I still have connections with Daystar and the feelings that I belong here in Daystar. Those 25 years, Daystar has made a lot of strides, taken a lot of big strides. Things have changed around the campuses. The programs have changed. People who were my students at that time have become professors now here at Daystar, and I congratulate them. And this is what I think is going to be your biggest challenge today. In the departments of media studies, you're going to have a problem that you must address. And so just to challenge you, Levi and others, you're going to have to need more of this kind of interaction. You're going to need more of the face-to-face or whatever media interactions. You have to ask yourself these questions. What's going to happen to this field? I believe it's going to be so difficult to have somebody calling themselves an expert very soon in the field of media. How would you define the expert in the field of media? Very soon we'll find an issue where a discipline has progressed beyond us, has gone ahead of us, and will be chasing the discipline in our studies. You'll be left with textbooks that no longer address what is the issue. And because it's no longer in those textbooks, it has moved on. And I remember when Ted Turner decided to start the 24-hour news channel. That time we wondered, who is going to be wasting time watching news for 24 hours? Today, you're dealing with another problem. And the problem is you have a generation that spends more than 24 hours with their handset. You're going to have to deal with my own children whom I cannot communicate with anymore because they are hooded, and they have AirPods, okay? And they can tell you they are praying. How would you know they're not praying? They tell you they're reading their Bible. How do you know they're reading the Bible? They'll tell you they're doing their homework. but you cannot know what they are doing. And that's the challenge you have in the Department of Communications. Who are you going to be reporting for? Those are the challenges that we're going to have to look at. I speak for government because I'm in the political side of things. And so when I was asked to come to do what I only need to do, which is to declare a conference open, I could do it and go away. But I want to be the catalyst. And your catalyst will run away. You guys are going to be involved in the real discussions and arguments about what are we going to do? What are the new challenges of media? And so without getting myself in the middle of what I know is going to be a crisis meeting for the next 3 days of academics asking themselves questions and wondering which directions to go to, I will do my duty of being thankful for the fact that I had an opportunity to study communications. I've had the opportunity to be the minister in charge of communications and information in this country. I've had the privilege of working with media and working and understanding a little bit of organizing media, making sure that there is something in this country called the Media Council, the Communications Authority, and all those organizations that make it possible for us to even begin to understand what media is about. But media has moved on. Media has shifted its form. I know when I came here many years ago, many more years ago, to study communication, and we were beginning to understand what we call communication principles or principles of communication. And we were taught so many principles. You had to memorize them to do an exam, if you remember those days. They have not changed, but they need to apply it separately. They need to apply it differently. And so as you bring up students now in PhD, and PhD students, those of you who are in PhD classes now, just be sure that you are the ones who are going to challenge your supervisors. You're the ones who are going to challenge your lecturers, your professors. Because you're the ones now who are introducing a new understanding of how media is supposed to be applied. We now require, as parents, we require younger advisors now. I should now befriend teenagers, Generation X, Generation Z, to advise me for my own kids, to tell me how I should understand them, isn't it? Yeah. So now the older people need the younger people in order to be able to communicate, to be able to understand. And so in the process of doing all that, we have come to the place where the university and media have to ask themselves questions, have to have a cup of tea together and say our roles sometimes have to interchange, and our roles have both disruptive characters. And universities will challenge you to be more disruptive. In these times when nations are asking questions about where to go, what to do, we expect academia, we expect media to come together. It's not just replacing governments at all, but helping governments understand what's going on in this world today. What's going on today? What's happening in the Ukraine, Russian situation, and why are we affected? And what should we expect? Can you be the ones prophetic about all these things for us as governments? Can we come to you, which we never do? Can we come to you? Can governments come to the universities, to academia, to look at how to interpret what they are reading, what is in the media, what is all these things that are coming about? So, without me taking too much of your time, I know you have a lot of questions to worry about. You have concepts to deal with. You have papers to present, and so on, allow me to just say that the confluence of university and media, where they meet, is expected that this is going to be the new world order, is going to give us the new world order. Create a situation where we need to come to find refreshing ideas, fresh ideas, where we have to come and drink from fresh water. And so I'll challenge you and say, since it's going to be difficult for us very soon to know which media you're talking about, define it for us, make it clear for us. How do we handle the situation where today the instruments are not longer in the libraries, like Professor was saying? The sources of knowledge have shifted. And yet it's a requirement by universities that you must publish, as she's saying. You must, of course, read books. And books are becoming very heavy to carry. You know, nobody wants to carry them. I mean, it can be very heavy to carry. So in that confluence, where you and the media interact, curriculum has to change. Curriculum has to be different. Training has to restart. Interactions, be more interactive and practical. When I was doing a bit of communications in this sector, or writing those days, I argued in the past, and I'll just take this one point and then I'll say it. I argued in the past that if the missionaries who came to bring education here, who came to bring God's word here and church, if they were to begin to understand the mind of the natives, the Africans at that time, we would have made strides better. We would be the ones who are on top of academia. But because of not being able to reach a commonness in mind, that time, the Africans were delayed for many, many years from gaining master's degrees, PhDs, and being researchers. So for many, many years, the African mind was kept at the level low, that they did not produce any academic content. And so it was difficult to get beyond a first degree those days. And now, suddenly, I mean, PhDs, professors, we have a number of them now. So I'm thinking we should have a fresh look at all these things that have been published before and see whether there is an increase in the content that can add to what exists today, that should have been there, that then helps us to understand. I don't know whether I'm making sense. Yes, so now you have the opportunity, but for many years it wasn't possible. When I was going to school, those days, and I'm not that old, if we were not even allowed to get a certain grade, you couldn't get beyond a certain grade, so that a few only can go to master's degree. It was deliberate, so that only a few can go to master's. And even fewer could go to PhD classes. So those are your challenges, and I hope that with the interactions that you have this week, let it go beyond the stipulated paperwork, and let's think how we will bring the universities into a confluent situation with media to produce something that we can consume as governments, as politicians. As we go into elections, Kenyans, apart from prayer, please help us to understand what kind of leadership we need, what kind of governance we need. How does the media help us with that? If I were to spend time, I would give my own experiences, but this is not my duty today to do that. I've come here to catalyze, to just throw these things out to you and to do what I must now do, which is to declare these 3 days or 4 days and how many other days you're going to have this interaction.
People would ask, are you standing up? Honorable Pogisho, I am standing up and wishing you the very best and thanking you for those remarks that you have given. Thank you very much.
Now you can stand up.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. A better clap for our chief guest. Thank you so much. I've interacted with the senator severally. I've covered him as a journalist when he was an MP in the National Assembly, and now as the majority leader in Senate, and even when he was in the Ministry of Higher Education. Senator, kuna mahali mlitufinya kidogo pale kwa media laws. Now that will pick aside, of course. Thank you so much for your remarks. I'm glad you've proceeded with that conversation about what is happening in the global north and the global south, as much as communication is concerned and all that. And also challenging us to be young advisors. So it's no longer having knowledge trickling from up to down. Sometimes even the young people can also be the initiators of these conversations. And I think that's a good challenge to those of us who are in this field of communication and academia generally. And then he has also pointed out the rate at which things are becoming obsolete, yeah? The kind of equipment we're using, the books we are using, you buy a book, then a few days later, the information there is obsolete, it has been overtaken by events. So those are some of the challenges that we're talking about. Earlier I had mentioned Monica Washeke from Nation, who is the Director of Transformation. Ona amefika. Yeah, she'll be one of our speakers in our next session. I don't know whether Njoki is in the house. Okay, I don't know whether in scholarship we say someone is in the house. I think that's how we MC out there, yeah? Here we don't say someone is in the house, but I can't see Njoki. But we're going to be having the next session shortly after the tea break. But before then, we are going to have a short, I've just seen Njoki walking in. Welcome very much. So she's going to be one of our speakers, and also there's someone else within the building who is also going to be one of our speakers in the next session. So we'll be talking about development of communication and media in Africa, and we'll be focusing about some of those challenges that we've been talking about. So are we in the global south telling our story the way we should, or are we using a different template to tell our story? So before then, we're going to have a photo session. Wapiga picha, where is the best place? I'll request we take a photo with our chief guest before he leaves. I believe we can use this podium or outside. Okay, so we can have it outside here. So I'll kindly request to do that. Then after that, we'll take our tea from behind there. I believe it's ready from the same point. Yes, the tea has already been set. So after the photo, the group photo, let's take our tea, maybe 15 minutes, and then we come back. So thank you very much. Let's proceed for the photo session. We are all welcome for that photo session. And then after that, we take our tea, and then we come back for the next session.